Hello there. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm Ryan in Singapore. Welcome to our mindfulness practice. I'm excited to get started with this series as we begin moving more into the mindfulness-based stress reduction, and especially today we're talking a bit about attitudes. So the 9 attitudes of MBSR we'll begin to cover, as well as today is about attitude in general, and it's pretty nice that I cracked open Full Catastrophe Living again, which I hadn't done in a while, and just to look at a bit of the beginning of the chapters of Full Catastrophe Living that are around attitude. So I'm going to read a little bit of that today. I think it's really applicable and quite nice to what we're doing. Hi Diane. Hello, Sybil. And, this also, I wanted to just pause before we really get started and say that I know that there is a group of people. I haven't used the bowl to end the meditation for a while, kind of in honor of secular mindfulness and what kind of potential religious ties there are using a bowl. But I have received some feedback to say that, hey, even though I'm not religious, even though I'm, my religion, whatever, doesn't necessarily align with using the bowl, I like the sound of the bowl at the end of the meditation. So it's been kind of a self-censorship for me not using the bowl, and it's in honor of a couple of mindfulness. So one is I do meditations as well for mindfulleader.org, and that's a requirement that we don't use a bowl to make sure it stays secular. And also here in Singapore, Brahm Institute tries to, I've worked with them a little bit, and we don't use a bowl because of, a lot of Buddhists are here, and we just don't want to have that kind of connection. And in Hong Kong as well, when I was teaching for teaching mindfulness to the Hong Kong police, I didn't use a bowl because of that. So just wanted to let you know where I'm coming from on that. So that aside, no one in Insight Timers ever complained and said, hey, I don't like it when you use a bowl. It makes me feel uncomfortable. So my encouragement to you is that if you do feel uncomfortable using a bowl, if it has any kind of negative connotation with you, please send me a message. Please write it in Ryan's Daily Mindfulness Circle, or send me a message directly, because so far the feedback that I've had has all been quite the opposite and says, hey, let's use a bowl at the end of meditation. Okay? So you can feel free to use the chat as well. Great, thank you. Thanks, Micah, for your feedback on that. Yes, and Rachel says, I only complain when it's too loud. It shocks me out of meditation. So what I always try to do as the meditation is ending is to use a verbal cue to let you know that the bowl's coming. And I've been working. I've rung the bowl many times, and I do listen to it on the recordings afterwards. So I do try my best to have the volume of the bowl about perfect and the distance from the mic correct. So, yeah, exactly. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for your feedback on that. So I'm going to move back into attitudes. Frank's finally, he knows what we're doing, so he's over here now. So the 9 attitudes of MBSR. So first, let's walk through those. What are the 9 attitudes of MBSR? And it's been so long, let's see how well my memory goes. Non-judging, patience, beginner's mind, trust, non-striving, acceptance, letting go. And then the 2 bonus attitudes, which are gratitude and generosity. That's fun, right? See, it's like I know this, I didn't know about all the balloons. Right? That's pretty funny. What was it? This that does it? Okay. All right, I need to learn these. I don't know if it's like a Mac or something. Makes all these things happen when I do particular gestures. So again, non-judging, beginner's mind, patience, trust, non-striving, acceptance, letting go, gratitude, and generosity. So these are all intentional attitudes that we can take as we embark on our mindfulness journey, to know that each one of these are not independent, that they are interrelated to one another, that they having intentionally bringing our attitude in that direction can help our reception to our mindfulness practice. So, and I like that non-judging is number one, because I do really feel non-judging is so important to how we come towards our practice. Judging so often, as we love to do, as we love to judge, not only our own experience as it's happening in the present moment, but also the experience of everyone else. When I see what she's doing, what he's doing, what do I feel about that? What's my opinion about that? And if you'll notice, your opinion shows up whether you like it or not, that this is something that just pops into our minds, and our opinions of our own experience. I like this, I don't like this, I want more of this, I want less of that. This is always showing up, whether we like it or not. And also with non-judging comes this question of curiosity. Can I be curious? Can I be a scientist, an explorer, examining as this experience comes on? Can I look at that experience with a beginner's mind, right? So you see all of these things start to go together. Patience as well, knowing that things unfold in their own time, that you can't force the flower to open, that the flower is going to open in its own accord. And so if we sit in our practice and we do our practice with patience, without expecting anything, with that kind of beginner's mind, I don't know what's going to happen, let's see what happens, then our chance of success in the practice, and success as well, put it in quotes, is greater. Because again, but why put success in quotes? Because one of the attitudes is non-striving. We're not actually trying to change anything. We're not trying for anything at all. We're just using raw awareness and seeing what happens as we examine ourselves with this raw awareness, and then what it is that we see. Can we accept what's happening here in this moment? Is it possible to go, this is what's here now, and just say, this is what's here now, without adding or subtracting anything to it? And then, letting go of what, letting go of what our expectations of the experience are, and just allowing the process to do what it is that it does, and trusting our innate inner wisdom that we do have, our bodies. That's something that I think we forget sometimes, is that you don't have to think about breathing. Breathing is something that just happens. You can let go completely, and you're not going to stop breathing. I think this is really maybe one of the real foundations of the attitude of trust, is that the breath always happens. So that's what we're going to be embarking on in the next few weeks. I've already scheduled all the events that are coming up for the 9 attitudes. So you can, if you like, on Insight Timer, you can sign up for those if you want a reminder for them, so that you can be sure to come to those sessions on the 9 attitudes. I love going over the 9 attitudes, and I'm quite excited about it. So I do hope you'll join for some of those. If you miss some, of course, the recordings will be available on the recording website. I think everybody knows where that is now. And it's 11 minutes in, so it's really time for us to start our meditation. I think what I'm going to do today is I'm going to allow us to go over on time just a little bit, so that I can do this little bit of reading from Full Catastrophe Living. I'll aim to get started at the 15-minute mark, and then finish the meditation at the 30-minute mark. So apologies if that's a little bit later for you than normal. Yeah, and I don't know what's going on with why the connection still has problems. After all this time, it feels like this is something that should be cleared up. I don't know why this issue persists. Okay. Looks like it's a little bit better now. All right, I'm going to go ahead and do this reading before we get started. To cultivate meditative awareness requires an entirely new way of looking at the process of learning, since thinking that we know what we need and where we want to get to are so ingrained in our minds, we can easily get caught up in trying to control things and makes them turn out our way, the way that we want them to. But this attitude is antithetical to the work of awareness and healing. Awareness requires only that we pay attention and see things as they are. It doesn't require that we change anything. And healing requires receptivity and acceptance, attuning to connectedness and wholeness. None of this can be forced, just as you cannot force yourself to go to sleep. You have to create the right conditions for falling asleep, and then you have to let go. The same is true for relaxation. It cannot be achieved through force of will. That kind of effort only produces tension and frustration. If you come to the meditation practice thinking to yourself, "This won't work, but I'll do it anyway," the chances are it will not be very helpful. The first time you feel any pain or discomfort, you will be able to say to yourself, "See, I knew my pain wouldn't go away," or "I knew I wouldn't be able to focus or concentrate," and that will confirm your suspicion that it wasn't going to work and you'll drop out. If you come in as a true believer, certain that this is the right path for you, that mindfulness is the answer, the chances are that you will soon become disappointed too. As soon as you find that you are the same person you always were, and that this work requires effort and consistency and not just a romantic belief in the value of meditation, relaxation, or mindfulness, you may find yourself with considerably less enthusiasm than before. We find that people who come with a skeptical but open-minded attitude do the best. Their attitude is, "I don't know whether this will work or not. I have my doubts, but I'm going to give it my best shot and see what happens." The attitude that we bring to mindfulness will, to a large extent, determine its long-term value to us. This is why consistently cultivating certain attitudes can be very helpful in getting the most out of the process of meditation. Your intentions set the stage for what is possible. They remind you from moment to moment why you are practicing in the first place. Keeping a particular attitude in mind is actually part of the training itself, a way of directing and channeling your energies so that they can most effectively be brought to bear in the work of growing and healing. Okay? Great. All right, perfect. It's the 15-minute mark. Let's go ahead and get into our practice. So, get yourself comfortable. Find a posture that's going to be supportive of your meditation practice today. Would encourage you, we're just going to be following the breath today, so I encourage you to find a seated posture if possible, as that will aid you in alertness. Seeing if you also can have a posture that is comfortable, relaxing. So, one that isn't too tense. So as you can see, I'm kind of rolling my head around and my shoulders to try and kind of encourage a little bit of relaxation in my neck and shoulder muscles. crown of the head towards the ceiling. If you've closed your eyes, feeling the eye sockets, the muscles around the eyes. Are the eyes relaxed? What's the feeling of the muscles around the eyes? How about the eyebrows, the forehead? What about the jaw? Are the teeth clenched together? Even if your lips are closed, is it possible to part the teeth slightly, allow the jaw to relax? Seeing if you can breathe through your nostrils with your lips closed. Back straight if you can, hips slightly higher than the knees so that you have that natural curvature in the lumbar spine. So arriving here today in our meditation posture, seeing if we can let go of any movement, arrive here in stillness. And one of the first things that may be arising out of your stillness is the fact that you are not completely still. That as much as you may try to remain perfectly still, you will notice that your body continues moving slightly as you breathe. Where do you feel the breath? Maybe at the abdomen, maybe at the chest, maybe at the nostrils. And if you find at any point it's really challenging to notice my breath, you can always take your left hand and place it on your belly, your right hand on your chest, and maybe it becomes a bit more obvious. The breath's effect on the body. A movement of the chest and abdomen with each inhalation, each exhalation. As best you can, keeping your attention there. Can you curiously watch the breath, feel the breath? And then from time to time, we may get distracted. We may find thoughts coming into the mind, bringing the attention away from the breath. As we notice those distractions, what happens to the attitude? Do we feel frustrated? Or is it possible to open the mind with curiosity. That's interesting. It's interesting how my mind won't stay at my breath. I wonder why that is. And then refocus the attention back. Come back to the observation of the abdomen rising and falling, the feeling of air moving in and out of the nostrils. As best we can, completely directing our attention that way. Holding on to this present moment awareness of the body as best we can. Are you still on the breath, or has your mind wandered to thoughts or physical sensations other than breath? Or sounds? See if, for today, you can keep your attention on the breath. And if there is any judging attitude as you lose concentration, can you be aware of that attitude? Can you non-judgmentally be aware of your judgment? And then come back to the breath, come back to that observation, letting go as best you can of whatever it is that distracted you. Choosing not to follow the thought train. As that train rolls in to the station, seeing it, observing it. Ah, there it is. And then it leaves. It leaves the station and not bringing you along with it. You stay right here, focused on the right now, on this moment, on this breath. You're doing great. Keep it up. Focus on this moment. Know that we will be ending the practice in a little under 2 minutes. So keep it up. You can do it. Just a little while longer to go. Okay, well done. It's time to draw our practice to its close, and I will close the practice with 3 rings of the bell. So feel free now to transition out of your period of practice in whatever way you like, maybe stretching out. Thanks for practicing with me. Thanks for your feedback on the bell. I just realized as I was ringing the bell that I haven't rung the bell in so long that I'm out of practice. Like the first ring was louder than I wanted to, and it's just kind of funny. So it just goes to show practice. Hey, you gotta practice to do and keep practicing. I don't know how many times I've rung that bell, but the fact that I haven't been practicing means that I just kind of forget how to do it in the optimal way. So that's kind of maybe a macro lesson for everything else. Keep practicing. If you want to see that result, even if you've done it 1,000 times, you've got to keep doing it if you want to continue to have that skill. Thank you. Exactly. I've lost my touch. It's time to get back on it. And what I want to share with you. So please do feel free to share in the chat. How did your practice go today? Any questions about attitudes, whether it be about the 9 attitudes or just attitude and mindfulness practice in general, feel free to write in the chat. And I just wanted to share what came up for me today. I had 2 little noteworthy things. One is something happened on Sunday, something really, really silly and really minor, and seems to bear no significance to my life overall. And I thought about it yesterday. I don't know how much time I spent thinking about that event, about this small. It's just something that happened. It was like a single post in a WhatsApp chat, right? And meaningless, and frankly speaking, not something that I thought that I would get involved in at all in my head or my emotions. And it's just funny that it showed up a lot yesterday, and then it showed up in this meditation. And I just thought to myself, why? Why does this silly, unimportant thought keep showing up in my mind? And I think this is always part of the exploration, that even the things that we think are insignificant, if it keeps showing up in our minds, there's probably a reason. There's, as I look at that now, well, what is it? What is it that puts this like splinter in my mind that makes it so that I want to keep revisiting this thing that I think is so insignificant? What part of me, what part of investment do I have in that it affects, how does it affect me? And what do I, is my mind protesting against it? What is that emotion? Can I investigate what emotion it is that comes as that thought keeps coming back? So really interesting to watch our thoughts and to see and to investigate, right? I mean, if you do have this thought of some seemingly insignificant thing that's coming back days later, what is it? What part of you is invested in that seemingly meaningless thing that causes you to keep revisiting it over and over again? And the second noteworthy thing is, well, at the end of the meditation, I felt this kind of floaty feeling, which I can't remember if I've ever felt this feeling before. I guess it doesn't really matter. That's just what it was in my meditation. I kind of felt like I was, maybe up here or something. I had this kind of floating off kind of feeling, probably in the last 2 minutes of the meditation, and I don't know what was causing that. And I don't think it's anything special, anything magical by any means, but it's a feeling. It's a feeling that was there, and I just want to acknowledge that it was there. And what maybe I didn't get enough sleep or something. Who knows? No need to necessarily investigate it further. Just the fact that this happened. Okay, let's look at the chat. Yeah, Jean also saying that this resonates, right? And Rachel as well. It's easy to obsess about the most minor things. And I think it is good to investigate, why am I obsessing about this? What part of me is attached to this seemingly insignificant thing? Because the more we learn about ourselves, the more we can unravel this mystery, and especially if this is causing any kind of suffering to ourselves, the more we understand about ourselves, the more the more easily we can begin to let go of these things that seemingly insignificant or actually very insignificant, right? So if it is so insignificant, especially in the future, if I can go, oh, this part of my identity is attached to this. So kind of going, okay, well, it's not important. And next time something like this comes up, I can more easily let it go. And again, coming with that investigative attitude, right? And seeing if I can not judge myself for thinking about this insignificant thing. Because this is really how, a great way to make it worse is to start judging. And that judgment of, oh, what's wrong with me? Why can't I let this insignificant thing go? Is a great way to make it stick around even more, and to also obsess over even more insignificant things. Thanks, Rachel. Thank you, Jean, for sharing. Angela says, thanks. I needed this this week. I've been studying for the past 6 weeks for an exam coming up on Friday. My mind is frazzled. I can't think straight, and I feel like I'm at the point of one piece of info in, one piece of info out. Thanks, Angela. And active study and there are two parts of studying, right? So there's the active part where we're reading, and then there's the passive part where it's absorbing in to the mind, right? So I don't know about you, but I mean, I've studied a few things. One of them in particular was when I'm like learning, very actively learning Chinese, right? As I'm learning Chinese, I'm seeing that the active learning process is exhausting. As I'm spending an hour with a teacher and then maybe 2 hours later working on homework, that I feel exhausted and I feel like I can't remember anything. And then what do? I go to sleep that night, and when I wake up in the morning, some of that stuff is solidified. Not all of it, of course, but just know that the learning process isn't always about active studying, and sometimes passively being passive. And not sometimes, there's always a passive component to learning as well. And so how does that solidification happen? I don't know, but certainly taking a break from it. And Archimedes, right? Archimedes didn't discover the concept of density actively, right? He discovered it by lying down in his bath water and watching the bath water move upwards, and it just, literally, that is where the word eureka came from, right? Eureka, I have found it, as Archimedes discovered the concept of density. Or how to measure volume of a shape that isn't a cube or some simple shape, right? So just understand that there is definitely a passive component of learning, that it takes all of you, that's integrated, that opens up the door for that eureka moment. Thanks, Angela, for sharing. Micah says, I love the feeling of floating, although it hasn't happened to me for a while. Made me feel like I'm levitating in the middle of the universe. Yeah, Jean says, you wake up in the morning and you order your breakfast in Chinese. It's a useful skill, by the way, being able to order breakfast in Chinese. Certainly, there were times in my life that if I didn't order breakfast in Chinese, I wasn't going to have breakfast. Micah's going to share a positive story here. I'll read it out, and then I'm going to have to sign off. I love to share a story from my week. I was working from home one day, and my neighbor started mowing his lawn. It's a noise that before practicing mindfulness would have infuriated me. Using my practice in action, I was able to detach from the sound and it didn't annoy me, and I kept working undistracted by the noise. 10 minutes later, as an acknowledgement of my positive detachment, my neighbor walked over and mowed my front grass. Thanks, Micah, for sharing. And that's a great one. Always liked to see non-judgmental awareness in action. When that annoying thing, you go, oh, in fact, it's just sound. It's just a sound. And can I see that as what it is? Sound waves going into my ear, and go, hey, why is it bothersome? Maybe there's something intrinsically bothering about it, perhaps. But oftentimes it's my own attitude that causes that to be annoying. Thanks, Micah, for sharing. He's trying to escape. I'll say one more goodbye, Frank. Oh, see, this is his happy face. He's so happy. Look at you. Let's send our well wishes out, and then I'll see you guys in about 48 hours. So follow along if you like. May I be happy and peaceful. May everyone watching, listening, wherever you are, I wish you all happiness and peace. May all sentient life on this planet and throughout the universe, wherever it may be, including those who have not yet been born, may we all be happy and peaceful. All right, take care. See you next time. Bye-bye.